They came from disco's wreckage, from Brooklyn basements, from a Motown mansion nobody wanted to talk about. Between 1980 and 1984, American soul music didn't just survive one of the roughest transitions in its history, it mutated, 5 separate times, into sounds nobody had a name for yet. And almost nobody watching it happen at the time realized they were witnessing the birth of entire genres, one single at a time. Stick with this one all the way through. Somewhere around the halfway mark, there's a name hiding inside a hit song that will make you stop what you're doing and say it out loud to whoever's in the room with you. And the final entry connects a reggae singer's son, a Motown founder's kid, and the most famous pop star on the planet, in a way that stayed hidden from casual listeners for years. This is the evolution of R&B and soul one-hit wonders, 1980 to 1984. 8 records, 8 vanishing acts. One's industry around it was falling apart and rebuilding itself at the exact same moment. Here's the backdrop you need before we start. By 1980, disco was supposedly dead. Radio stations had staged public backlashes against it. Rock formats were actively hostile to anything with a dance beat. And yet the rhythms disco had built, the 4-on-the-floor pulse, the extended club mixes, the DJ as tastemaker, didn't disappear. They just went underground, into clubs like New York's Paradise Garage, and resurfaced wearing different clothes. Boogie, post-disco, freestyle, electro-funk. Every single artist on this list is a casualty and a beneficiary of that transition, all at once. Let's start where it begins, with a band reaching backward in time to survive it. The song climbed into the top 10 on the R&B chart and topped the national dance charts that summer, turning a 35-year-old journeyman singer into, briefly, one of the biggest names in Black American music. Morgan would go on to have a long and respected reggae career for decades afterward. Touring years had to be homegrown. Central Line formed in London out of the wreckage of an earlier outfit called Typical Funk Band. The members deliberately fused British funk with the polished, contemporary American R&B sound they'd been absorbing from imported records, so completely that when they released Walking into Sunshine in the summer of 1981, American listeners assumed Central Line simply had to be a US act. The groove, the production, the vocal phrasing, none of it sounded remotely foreign. They weren't American at all. They were a London group who had studied the sound so closely they could reproduce it note for note. And then something happened that sealed the song's fate on this side of the Atlantic. The same influential New York club DJ who'd helped break Denroy Morgan's single got hold of Walking into Sunshine and reworked it into an extended club mix that turned it into a dance floor staple at one of the most important clubs in American music history. The song charted in both the UK and the US, and for a moment, Central Line looked like they might have real staying power on both continents at once. They didn't. Nothing they released afterward connected with audiences the same way. And today, Walking into Sunshine survives almost entirely as a warm-weather nostalgia record, adored by collectors and club historians. A song people love and dance to without knowing, or particularly caring, where it actually came from. We're 3 entries deep, and the sound is already shifting under our feet. From a disco-era cover, to a reggae-funk hybrid, to a British band chasing an American groove so precisely nobody could tell the difference. Wait until you hear what happens next, because entry number 5 is where the whole thing turns into a family joke that accidentally became a smash. Number 5, 1982. A duo built entirely on a family connection, assembled almost like a home recording project. Rosalind Hunt was the daughter of Geraldine Hunt, a singer who had scored her own near-miss hit 2 years earlier with a song called Can't Fake the Feeling. Freddie James, Geraldine's son and Rosalind's brother, had already had a modest hit of his own in the late 70s. So when Geraldine sat down and wrote a song specifically for her daughter and a Canadian friend named Lise Coulerier to record together as a duo called Chérie, it was practically a family production line, run entirely by one mother trying to launch her kids. The song was Murphy's Law. It's built around deliberately sped-up, squeaky vocals and bursts of laughter woven directly into the chorus, a novelty-sounding hook wrapped around genuinely sturdy songwriting and production. It shot to #1 on the Billboard Dance Chart, holding the top spot for 3 full weeks, cracked the top 5 on the R&B chart, and climbed into the UK top 20 as well. For a stretch of 1982, you could not go to a club in North America without hearing it. And then, almost as fast as it arrived, it fell apart. Coulerier left the group shortly after the single's success, reportedly under some tension, and was replaced by another singer for later recordings. More records followed under the Chérie name, and none of them mattered even slightly. Murphy's Law remains one of the strangest, most purely fun accidents of the entire decade, a song built by a mother for her own daughter that ended up outliving every single other thing the family ever released together. Number 4, 1982. And this is the one I promised you, the name that turns this from a fun trivia list into something you'll want to bring up at dinner. A songwriter and producer named Michael Cleveland put together a group called In Deep, built around vocals from Réjean Magloire and Rosemary Ramsey. The single they created together was Last Night a DJ Saved My Life, a post-disco story song about a woman who's bored and alone at home, waiting on a man who won't answer his phone, considering leaving him entirely, until a DJ on the radio plays exactly the right song at exactly the right moment and saves her from her own bad night.
Baby, why leave me all alone?
In the second verse, she leaves the house, and the sound of squealing tires suggests she's narrowly avoided an accident, saved, again by a DJ playing something good on the radio. It reached the top 10 on the R&B chart. It became, over the following decades, one of the most sampled songs in music history, appearing in pieces inside more than 200 other recordings across multiple genres. Rolling Stone would later single it out as one of the greatest songs ever written about being a girl, listening to the radio, or some combination of the two. Here's the detail that turns this from a good trivia fact into something genuinely remarkable. The book that essentially defined how music writers and historians talk about club culture and the rise of the DJ as an artistic figure took its exact title directly from this song. One single, largely forgotten outside of dance music circles, from 1982, and its title became the permanent, borrowed name for an entire tradition of writing about DJ history and club culture that continues to this day. In Deep tried to follow it up with a song called When Boys Talk. It barely scraped into the lower reaches of the charts. The DJ saved her life in the song. Nobody could save the group's career after that. It remains their only real chart entry, and they're remembered today almost entirely as a footnote with an outsized cultural shadow. We're at the halfway point now, and everything so far has been dance floor music, built by songwriters and producers working quietly in the background, shaping the sound without ever becoming stars themselves. Entry number 3 is different. Entry number 3 is where an entire genre gets born, not borrowed from something else. Number 3. 1983. A 25-year-old singer from Brooklyn named Brenda Shannon Green.
Music played while our bodies displayed.
She recorded a song simply released under the name Shannon, Let the Music Play, for a small independent dance label, and neither she nor the people producing her had any real idea they were about to accidentally invent an entire musical movement. The producers built the track around an early drum machine, and one of the first synthesizer bass lines of its kind, gated and reverbed into a sound nobody had quite heard put together in exactly that way before. It topped the national dance charts, reached number 2 on the R&B chart behind only a Patti LaBelle single, and climbed all the way to number 8 on the Hot 100 by early 1984. More importantly than any of those chart positions, it created a blueprint. Musicians, producers, and critics would later point to this exact record as the founding template for an entire sound that came to be called freestyle, the Latin-influenced, synthesizer-driven dance music that would go on to dominate New York and Miami club culture for the rest of the decade and well into the next one. Shannon didn't just land a hit single. She accidentally handed an entire genre its founding document, its sonic blueprint, before anyone had even agreed on what to call it. And it was still, technically, her only trip into the pop top 40. Her later singles continued to perform well on the dance charts specifically, but none of them crossed back into the mainstream the way this one had. VH1 would eventually rank Let the Music Play among the greatest one-hit wonders of the entire 1980s, which is one very understated way to describe a woman who effectively invented an entire genre of dance music and then spent the rest of her career watching other artists build careers directly on top of the foundation she poured. 2 entries left, and this is where the sound stops sounding like traditional soul music almost entirely, and somehow becomes something soul music could never have existed without going forward. Number 2, 1984. 4 guys out of Brooklyn who started as a neighborhood DJ crew doing park jams and block parties under the name Jam On Productions, years before any of this happened. Ben Cosmo D. Chenak led the group, now renamed Nucleus, into a hip-hop adjacent single called Jam On It. Built around a bass line the group has said in interviews was directly inspired by a British new wave track, wrapped around deliberately helium-pitched vocals and a rap verse delivered by a member known as Chili B. It became a genuine crossover phenomenon on both sides of the Atlantic, charting in both the US and UK, and it remains, to this day, one of the defining sonic touchstones of early electrofunk, a sound built almost entirely from drum machines, vocoders, and pitched-up vocals rather than live instrumentation. The business side of this story is considerably less fun than the music. According to CNEC, the group's contract was structured in a way that meant they saw almost none of the royalties from the record's massive success, signed over to a label with reportedly mob-connected ownership. That same year, Nucleus toured on what's considered the very first arena-scale hip-hop tour in American history, opening for acts who would go on to define an entire genre for the following decade, while Nucleus themselves never charted a follow-up single again. That bass line didn't disappear, though, even after the group faded from view. A decade later, a German dance production project lifted a sequencer line from a completely different Nucleus track and turned it into one of the biggest international dance hits of the entire 1990s. Nucleus never got another hit under their own name. Their sound simply kept getting rediscovered and borrowed by other people who did. And now, number 1, 1984. The story that ties every single thread on this list together, involving family secrecy, industry politics, and one of the most famous singing voices on the entire planet, hidden in plain sight for years. Kennedy Gordy was just 18 years old, and he happened to be the son of Berry Gordy, the man who had built Motown Records from nothing into the single most important black-owned record label in American history. Kennedy had been writing songs since childhood, tunes he would later describe himself as mediocre at best, and even his own father wasn't particularly impressed by his early demos. His half-brother had already tried recording under the family name years earlier, with little success, which only made the pressure worse. So Kennedy made a decision that changed everything. He wouldn't use the family name at all. He recorded a paranoid, synth-driven track built around the creeping, disorienting feeling that you're constantly being watched, and he released it under a completely new identity, Rockwell. What almost nobody outside the immediate family knew at the time, and what Motown itself kept deliberately quiet, was that the soaring, unmistakable voice singing the song's chorus belonged to Michael Jackson, at the absolute commercial peak of his global fame, doing an old family friend a quiet favor, while staying entirely uncredited on the official record. Jackson's own brother Jermaine added additional backing vocals as well. Somebody's Watching Me, shot to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, kept off the very top spot only by Kenny Loggins' Footloose, went certified gold, and topped the charts outright in multiple countries around the world, including Belgium, France, and Spain. It became, and remains, one of the single most recognizable songs of the entire decade, an eternal Halloween radio staple decades later, and for years, plenty of casual listeners had absolutely no idea the ghostly, soaring hook they'd been singing along to for their entire lives belonged to the biggest pop star on the planet. Rockwell released a follow-up album the very next year, featuring Stevie Wonder himself as a guest vocalist on one of its singles. It stalled commercially almost immediately and went practically nowhere on the charts. The son of Motown's own founder, backed by the label's greatest living voice, could not manufacture a second act to save his life. One song, one carefully guarded secret, and one impossibly catchy chorus, and then it was over, as fast as it had arrived. 8 records, 5 years. A cover song that traveled from 1967 to 1980 to a Coolio sample in the 90s. A reggae singer who crossed over for exactly one summer and then went home to the genre that made him. A British band so convincingly American that an entire country never questioned it. A mother-built novelty, hit that outlived every other song her family ever released. A DJ love song that quietly gave its name to an entire book about club culture and DJ history. A Brooklyn singer who accidentally invented an entire genre of dance music without meaning to. A crew who got financially robbed by their own label while inventing a sound that outlived their career by decades. And a Motown heir who needed Michael Jackson's voice and a completely fake name just to step out from under his own father's shadow for 3 unforgettable minutes. That's the evolution of R&B and soul one-hit wonders, from 1980 through 1984. 5 years, 8 vanishing acts, and an entire genre quietly rebuilding itself in the background the whole time. Which one of these hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments below, and if this kind of deep catalog soul history is what you're here for, there's a lot more of it waiting for you.